We're live. I hit the wrong button. I forgot to do the countdown. I messed it up. I messed everything up. So I'm gonna get into the into our room here. I beat Dom. I beat Dom into the room. Now I'm here all by myself. There he is.
Hey, what's going on?
What's up, buddy? Yeah, I meant to hit the design button, and I caught both of us by surprise hitting the wrong button and messing it all up. So my bad. Sorry about that.
Hey, we're only a year. We're only a year in. We got it all figured out, right?
I think we're 2 years in. So
2 years in.
so
There you
so
go.
it's even worse.
Okay,
It's
there we
even
go.
worse that I did that.
John, do you ever have days where after doing the radio show for 10 years or something you do where you're just like you do it the complete opposite and you don't know why?
Yeah, it happens, and at least we know what we did wrong. In the early days, it took a lot longer to figure out. Now it's like every now and then I make stupid mistakes, and it's very quick to rectify. But I make a lot less of them. But yes, it does happen.
Okay, so we're safe here, Tom.
Oh, I mean, I look, hey, everybody makes mistakes. I make mistakes. You make mistakes. Doesn't matter how long you've been doing something or how much of a professional you are at something. Even experts make mistakes at things. So, I don't feel too bad about it. I just thought it was funny. I just, kind of, we were in finishing up chatting as we do before we start the room. And I just went up and kind of hit the button. And in my mind, I was hitting the button that opens up the countdown, and I wasn't. I was hitting the button that just makes us go live. So we were just thrust onto the live stage this morning. So I guess we should probably say, welcome everybody to Not the Smartest Guys in the Room. Here we are. We're here every Wednesday morning at 9:30 a.m. streaming live all over the internet. We're based in Clubhouse right now, but this room goes out live all over the place. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. The platform formerly known as Twitter, Twitch. So you name it, you can watch it all over the place, listen all over the place. And Dom and I are here to surround ourselves with experts to help answer our questions and your questions alike. So please jump in, throw something in the chat if you got a question, and we'll take it from there. But I think, Dom, we're going to talk about a little bit about feedback, right? And how to deal with feedback, when to listen to feedback. Curious to hear other people's thoughts, because as usual, I have some of my own. But yeah, I thought I'd just jump right in since I threw us into the room accidentally early without any sort of countdown or preparation. I figured I would just do the intro. How'd I do, Dom?
You did pretty good. I like it. I'm glad you did it. You carry that weight today. Hey, and your picture keeps getting bumped down on my little thing. So that's Tom will be bringing up the rear today. So, okay, we're talking about comments, feedback. John Jay, interesting. You're one to say so there's two things here. There's comments and there's feedback. They're a little bit different sometimes, but John Jay mentions like engagement. So he calls it engagement in the comments where he can get so John, you admit you might say something more divisive than I'm comfortable with or put out a content that is more divisive that gets engagement. So how do you handle the comments when they're like, John, this is the worst piece of garbage you put out, or why would you share this? How do you handle something like that?
I don't. I ignore it. I just ignore it. So I don't put out a lot of controversial stuff. I really stick to what my brand's all about. And I'll give you an example. I posted a video of a police canine dog. And they're rushing him to the hospital. He got stabbed in the neck. That by far, and it came from Kalamazoo Public Safety, that by far has 400, almost 500,000 reach in the last 2 weeks and still growing. And I just basically make a short comment and said, let me know your thoughts. And then I ignore it. When it comes to reviews, I ignore those as well because some are good. You got to throw those out. Some are bad. You got to throw those out. The truth is somewhere in the middle. But if the number one comment I will pay attention to is from our radio syndicator and from radio station feedback, because they're the ones who get me in front of a larger audience. The one thing I would I would say is, don't make wholesale knee-jerk reactions and changing your content based off what a very small percentage of people say. And look at what's delivering results, and do more of that. And those that don't, do less of. That's the only thing I can tell you. As far as social media goes, is about engagement and reach. And the more people to comment, the more people that click an emoticon, the more people to share, the greater it goes. And the cop haters and the trolls, they make negative comments, and some of those I hide, some of those I block, but some are with the what's it called, the it's a comment assist tool. If it's got a URL in it, it's a hacker, whatever it is, or certain words, it's automatically hidden. No one sees it.
John Jay, man.
Moderations Assist is the name of the tool in Facebook.
I appreciate your straightforwardness, and you got it. He handles it pretty well, huh, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like that because, at the end of the day, it popped into my head, that old saying, right? Like, which I'm sure we all heard as kids growing up, that our parents said to us, right? If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all, right? And I think it's not exactly what I would apply here, but I think it's sort of like, if you don't have anything constructive to say, right? If you're not going to say anything that adds to the conversation, that improves or creates opportunity for improvement, for the thing that you're critiquing or providing feedback on, then just don't bother. Don't say anything. But I think often, what John was kind of hitting on there is, a lot of times the people who comment tend to be so self-absorbed that all they're really doing is letting you know that they as an individual didn't like one particular thing. And I think John's exactly right that you can't focus on those things. You can't really pay attention to them, because at the end of the day, if you try to make everyone happy, you're only going to succeed in making no one happy, right? And so what you should try to do is make the core audience or your core community happy, right? That you should create content for that core group of people, that audience or that community that you really want to serve. And there's always going to be people that are gonna criticize, or going to try to detract, or going to come in and let you know that they didn't like one particular thing you said, or they think you should change this other thing that's been working for you for a long time. And you just have to let them go. I mean, it's just people are going to criticize stuff. They're going to hate on things, and you just have to, you can't let it get under your skin. Right. So I think there is valuable feedback that you can get from an audience, but all of that sort of like targeted criticism and I didn't like this and I didn't like that, I think I agree with John. A lot of times you just ignore it.
All right, we're getting somewhere here. Mr. Brian P. Swift, how do you handle feedback? And me and Brian had a conversation the other day about something, and Brian said, "No, whatever you, Dom, when you say it, I know it's out of love, so have at it," And okay, that's an angle. Go on. How do you handle feedback, Brian?
Well, one, I think it depends on who's giving it. There are people in our lives that we really respect and care about, and we value their feedback, no matter if it's good, bad, or ugly. So I think it would behoove people to listen to those people that care and give you constructive feedback. As for other people, it's just noise, kind of like John and Tom said. It's noise, and you just let it roll over you and move on, because you don't have time for certain things, and you only have so much energy. But for those people in our lives that we really value and respect, I think you have to listen to it. And I mean, at this time in all our lives, I think, getting tough feedback is not new to us, and you just take a deep breath. And to me, it gives you a chance to really look from the perspective of somebody else, which is important, because we're too close to the forest sometimes to see the trees and what we're doing. So having somebody like John say, well, you need to watch, you need to have a, better clock, watch your clock, and you need to do this. And, when it comes to podcasting, holds a lot of weight with it. And same thing with you, Dom. You talked about some of my videos and you were dead on. And that's how you get better. If you're serious about getting better, then you take the feedback from those people that you hold in your life to have value. I'm complete.
Thanks, Mr. Swift. What do you think about this idea? And I'll hit you on it first, Brian. Sometimes I might have got feedback, or I might still get feedback that hurts, right? Because it's so close. It hits so hard. It's something I know I'm working on, or I'm not quite there yet. And somebody calls you out on it. How do you handle that? Where I know over the years, I've overreacted at times when people were like, "Hey, Dominick, you're saying this, but you're still working for the man and you're telling people to go for it," or something like that. I was like, "Well, I'm using benchmarks and metrics and I'm not there yet." I remember being so fired up about it. I regret it because they just hit too close to home. What do you think, Brian?
I mean, we all have to take that deep breath and kind of suck it up, because we're not perfect. It's about, as I've said, it's not about perfection. It's about progress. And, I get mad at myself. I use my own name sometimes, when I'm talking to myself, because, and there's a mental strategy to that. So I use my name, and, it's hard when you get pissed at yourself, right? I mean, especially when somebody's right. I don't get mad at them. I get pissed at me when they're right about something that maybe they've called you out on. And I just look at it as, an opportunity I'll take a deep breath and then, work through it in my head. And I think sometimes the best thing to do is say, you're right. You're right. I'm working on it. I'm not perfect. Especially, when it's something that you are working on and you're not where you need to be. But you're working on it. I mean, we have to accept those things in our lives. That's part of growth. That's that tough hump that we've got to accept, and maybe then go revisit, like, why am I not as far as I thought I was, or why am I keep stumbling over this? And there's nothing wrong with that. We're not perfect people. We're on journeys. Definitely not destinations. We're on journeys. And along those journeys, we're going to hit some of those spots. And I think I'll go back to my John Maxwell philosophy. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. If it's a great opportunity to learn and regroup and come up with a better game plan, they just did you a favor. So that's the way I kind of look at it. I'm complete.
Good stuff, Mr. Swift. All right. Not the smartest guys in the room. Tom, what do you have to add there? And then you take us to JC and Dr. Tachi. Go on, man.
Yeah, look, man. I was just going to say, I was thinking about this while our friend Brian was speaking there, and one of the things that popped into my head was, something that I've said. I don't know, in this room. I don't know how many times I've said it. I've said it in person to you. I've said it in front of a bunch of folks here before, and in other forums. And that is that I know that I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Right. I know that I am not going to be everybody's favorite. And in fact, some people are just going to not like me. Right. They're not going to like what I have to say. They're not going to like the way I say it. And I think if you're ever putting yourself out there, right, regardless of the platform, whether it's on Clubhouse, whether it's live streaming on the internet, whether it's, doing webinars or seminars or in person or on stage or networking events, whatever. However you're putting yourself out there, you have to accept that you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and you have to be okay with it. You really have to accept it. I think it's really the only way forward. And it is really kind of one of those things that people who find a lot of success in presenting in front of other people, in being in front of other people, and performing in front of other people, whether it's, and I'm even talking about actors here, right? One of the things that they are really good at is focusing on doing the best possible job that they can, given the circumstances that they're in, right? Given the context of the situation, doing the best possible job they can, and accepting that not everyone is going to love it, right? They may not even love it, right? But you have to accept that you are not everyone's cup of tea. And I think that's how I deal with that kind of feedback. Sometimes when you get critical feedback from an individual, you just go, all right, well, I'm sorry you didn't enjoy it, and you move on, right? And it's all it is. As long as you're doing the best job you can in the current circumstances. This is actually something, I'll just add this bit real quick, and then I promise I'll throw it back to you, Dom. I'll stop talking for a minute. But this is something I say to people a lot when it comes to work in a creative field, right? Which is obviously what I do. I've been in production for 22 plus years now, and I've delivered a lot of content to a lot of people, right? To a lot of clients, whether that's through Talex Media to businesses, or in my career in television, to networks, right? That we're going to broadcast content to millions of people around the world. And one of the things that I've always said to people is, the question you should ask yourself is not, is this perfect? Right? When you're finishing up a project or getting ready to deliver a project, you should not ask yourself if something is perfect, because it never is. The question you should ask yourself is this the best I could possibly do given the circumstances I'm in, given the current context right now? Is this the best this can possibly be right now at this particular moment in time? And if the answer is yes, then it goes. You send it, right? And if not, then you keep working on it. But there's not one thing that I've ever done in my entire career, in 22 plus years, thousands of hours of content that I've produced, right? There's not one thing I've ever done that I couldn't go back and change now, right? So the question you always have to ask yourself is this the best I could possibly do right now? And if the answer is yes, send it and let it go.
I like it, Tom. That makes me feel good. I was this morning, I just was looking through YouTube videos. I wanted to go back as far as I could in my YouTube videos and share where I started from, and then I played the video. There's weird stuff about it. Maybe I look weird. Maybe it doesn't sound right. And maybe they don't always sound right now, but I shared the message, and I shared it again on LinkedIn today. And the message was basically what I learned from going broke. And 6 years later, it was a strong message. Like there was a million reasons why it wasn't perfect, but at its root, the basic I said, like, your family will be there for you. You can start over tomorrow and whatever else. I was like, I can live with that. Like, to your point, I can live with what I put out. It was the best that I could do at that time with what I had. And I'm still somewhat proud of it today. All right, JC Dragon, feedback. We're going to you. Then we're going to Dr. Tachi. JC, feedback. Do you handle it? Do you care? Do you blow right through it? Do you breathe fire on it? What does the dragon do with feedback?
What's up, guys? Good to be with you. Love to know that we every Wednesday we can get a little taste of each other, after we've met each other. So thanks. Yeah, what's I always like to ask different questions about things. Because the conversation we're having is like, what do you think about this whole concept of feedback? The questions I like to ask, there's two questions on both sides. The first question I would ask everybody that puts anything out there is, why did you put it out there? What was your goal of putting it out there? Were you just seeking validation? Are you trying to promote something? Because sometimes we unconsciously have our own agenda of putting something out there, which would prompt you to react negatively to getting negative feedback if it's not what you were looking for, right? Because there's one side of that is, any action on your post, and I think John, said something about that, is action, right? It's publicity, right? But then on the other side of it, I mean, my observation, especially in the realm of social media, and we got podcasters here, I would say we live in a world full of people that have a high priority of being right. including us. People, human beings like to be right. So whether you're getting positive or negative feedback, another question I like to ask, because I like to stop what I initially think and just pause and observe and say, well, what would prompt somebody to give you positive feedback? And think about that for a second. If you put up a post, by the way, Dom, I love the posts that you've been putting up about, like, you know, times of the past and stuff, and playing with your kids and stuff like that. That's been great. You should keep going with that. It's entertaining.
Thanks, brother.
But think about it. If I like or love or comment on something and give you positive feedback, why did I do that? To some degree, I'm trying to be right and I'm trying to validate myself. So let's look at the other side of it. If I give you negative feedback, it's the same thing. I'm just trying to validate myself, of trying to be right. So I like to I'm open to all feedback because I'm a big fan of human behavior. When I meet a complete nincompoop and knucklehead, I'm fascinated by that guy. And he typically reminds me of why I love the people that I love in life, because I think there's more nincompoops out there. So I'm open to it because I like to observe rather than participate in it. I like all feedback because I think that it's interesting to see what your content provokes or evokes in people. You know what I mean? Like, I've never put up a post. Like, if I have a viral post, I mean, 100% less positive feedback than negative feedback. So I'm aware of that. So I guess that's what it is. If you're going to play the game, you have to recognize, like Tom said, that this is part of it. But I think all feedback is positive. And I like to just observe it. And sometimes I do love to take the stance of saying, like, if somebody gives me some shit, I love to say, hey, thanks so much for that feedback. What can I do to improve it? And what you'll notice is that's not what they want. They just want to give you shit. So that's another thing, is negative feedback really doesn't have a lot of validity. Because if I wanted to give any of you here a critique that might come off negative, I will first ask for permission. If I just give it to you, I'm just trying to, like, stir the pot. You know what I'm saying? So if somebody's out there just giving negative feedback, that's probably not somebody I want to be around anyway. So anyway, long-winded.
Okay, so let me double back on that. When somebody gives you the feedback, let's say if they said, JC, Tom, I don't understand why you guys wear hats. You should not wear hats because your heads are perfectly shaped and you've got the best looking heads in the world. It doesn't make any sense. So do you look at that and how do you know if that has merit, or maybe my head is perfectly shaped?
Perfect example. So the first thing I would do if somebody said that is I would probably just go, and think about it a little bit, and stop my knee-jerk reaction to it that I might want to defend or explain why I wear a hat, and rather ask, I wonder why they asked that for me. And that would give me the opportunity to say, do you not like hats? Or what do you think? Do you think I should wear a hat or not? Just to have a conversation. And very often, like I said before, they don't typically want to, if somebody gives you a negative comment, they're not looking for a conversation. They're just looking to raise themselves up by putting you down. So I like to play in that playground and say, do you think I should not wear a hat? Because I'll do that if you want. The old me would be like, hey, F you, I'll do whatever the hell I want, take it or leave it. So I just look at those people like they're like cartoons. They never really want to get into a conversation. They just want to, like, fart in the room and leave. You know what I mean? They're not interested in actual context. So I like to play that game and say, what would you have me do? Right? And they never have any constructive criticism. So I think it's fun. I gamify it.
Interesting approach, JC. I mean, I'll just share what I do, because I take a different approach, right? So different strokes for different folks. But here's what I do when somebody asks me why I wear a hat all the time, why they always see me with my hat on. The explanation is really straightforward. I wear a hat all the time because when I started my company, when I left the entertainment industry and started my company, I decided when I created my logo, I decided that I should rep my brand, right? That if I wasn't proud enough to represent my brand, right, and my logo, then I could never expect anyone else to be proud of my brand or my logo, right? If I didn't sort of lead by example, if I didn't set that charge, it wasn't reasonable for me to expect other people to be excited about Talex Media if I wasn't excited about Talex Media. And so what I did was I made a logo. I had the logo made into patches, and I put a patch on a hat, and I put the hat on my head. And honestly, before 2018, really, I'd never really worn a hat regularly. I didn't really like wearing hats. It wasn't my thing. So it was brand new for me. And I did it specifically for that reason, that I felt it was important to represent my brand for other people. The funny thing is often when people ask me that question and I explain that to them, I also tell them, also, I'm bald, and it's a good habit to have in the summer because getting a sunburn on the top of your head is real bad. Trust me, it's a very, very uncomfortable thing to have happen. And also, a lot of bald people end up with skin cancer on top of their heads from sun exposure. So it's also just a good habit to be in as a bald person. I have been told by a lot of people that I have a really good shaped head for being bald. I've been shaving my head since I was 19 years old, 20 years old, since I was 20 years old. So for 25 years, I've been without hair longer than I ever had hair. So I've been bald for a very long time. I'm very comfortable with it. It doesn't bother me at all when I play dress up a couple of times a year and go to nice events, a dinner or a function like that. When I have to put on a suit, I don't wear my hat for those things. And if you've seen any of my wedding pictures, some of which I shared online when Becky and I got married last year, I didn't wear a hat for that either. Although I did have my hat with me. I thought I was going to put it on, but during the reception, but then it was warm. So I didn't. But yeah, that's why I wear the hat, right? I just explained to them, hey, this is why I do it. I don't really care if they like it or not. They can say, oh, you shouldn't wear it all the time, or oh, I don't think it's appropriate. That's fine. They're entitled to their opinion. It's not going to change what I do. But I do just explain because I think there's a good reason. And often people go, oh, okay, that makes sense. And they kind of leave it there, right? So even if they don't like it, at least they understand that I'm doing it for a reason. And I think it's kind of important to convey that for people. So I just wanted to share that. We're going to go next to my friend and yours, Dr. Tachi, who's here and who we haven't talked to in a bit. It's been a hot minute, I think, since Dr. Tachi's been in here and talking to us. So great to see you, Dr. Tachi. How do you deal with feedback you get from folks and from the content you share? What's your approach?
Hey, good morning, everyone. My sister was visiting from Malaysia, so I haven't been here for about like 4 weeks or whatever, but I'm glad to be back. So I think there is value in feedback depending on who it comes from, as was said, depending on how it's said, depending on whether or not it's intended to be constructive. And you can tell when people just have nothing to say and they just are miserable, and when people actually have something constructive to say. That said, for me, it really depends on who's saying it, because I by no means am I perfect at all, not at all. And I for the most part, I'm exposed to constructive feedback, definitely. But I'll tell you this: there are a lot of people that just like to complain, especially people you may not know. And so if I don't, with my students, for example, do I ever read student evaluations? For the most part, nope. Because if there's something that you want to tell me and that you're having an issue with, come and tell me because you actually have access to me. Don't wait until after the fact where it's going to be anonymous and then you say whatever you have to say, because I know that I'm a damn good professor and that I'm there for you whenever. Most people don't talk. I teach completely online. People don't say, hey, do you want to have a phone conversation? I've gotten so many students who say this is the first time a professor has ever offered that to me. In my head, I'm like, that can't be so, but I'm like, that could be true. So if I'm offering all these ways for you to give me feedback where I can actually help you and I'm there to help you, and you choose not to do it, well, then I can't help you. There's nothing I could do after the fact. So if I'm not giving too much weight to things that are not told directly to me after the fact from people I actually know, like students, why do I care about people that I don't know that much that are going to say it in an inconstructive way? So that's kind of how I handle it. I love feedback because it lets me know that things are working. So I always pay attention to, like when I make videos on social media, I love paying attention and then answering back, even if it's not the most positive thing. But for the most part, I have never gotten comments that were, if they didn't agree, it was always constructive. I haven't gotten where it's like trollism yet, if that makes any sense. So maybe I need more experience with the negative to answer this, but that's my take.
Nice. I got that. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'd be curious to see how you would deal with a little trollism.
What if she got real mean all of a sudden and like, is there that side of Dr. Tachi? Do you ever just rage on people?
I don't like to do that because the thing is I know how I can get that. You want to stay on the good side of me, seriously, because really I'm pleasant and I like most people unless you give me a reason not to like you. But don't play with me because you'll cry. That's all I have to say.
There you go. Go on.
I was gonna say, don't mistake Dr. Tachi's kindness for weakness. That was the subtext there. Don't mistake it. Just because Dr. Tachi is a very kind person, don't try to take advantage, because she'll let you know.
That's right. You're getting a thumbs up from John Jay. John Jay, you want to add something there? Kindness.
I agree with Dr. Tachi 100%. Number one, I don't like how I feel afterwards. It's not about them. Look, they go about laughing. They don't think about you at all. But I pondered that stuff forever. Number two, and this is a really practical thing, I have to consider what my goals are. My goal is always to increase my reach on social media. It's always to get more radio stations. It's always to get more podcast listeners. If I deliberately divert from that to address a troll, I have gone to their level and totally distracted myself from what my goals are. So there's an old saying, I believe it's Tom, I can't remember who said it, but it's never argue with an idiot. They'll always beat you with years of experience and drag you to their level. And I add in there, especially on social media. So I just don't do it.
May I add something really quickly?
Please.
I think that for me, there are a lot of people who they're not necessarily into what I do and talk about anyway. There's a level of no, you don't even really have to have understanding because I try to break things down about media and tech. So I mean, I remember one time back in the Periscope days, somebody came in there trying to troll, and I engaged. I'm like, "Hey, well, is there anything you'd like to say about such and such?" He was like, "Oh, no, that's okay. Have a nice day." So it's not fun because I've acknowledged you, but also I always see this. I think what I talk about is not necessarily troll worthy per se. So that's probably why I don't get a whole bunch.
Right on, Dr. Tachi. I'm in the world of motivation and inspiration. So sometimes you'll hear somebody, oh, this is corny, this is BS, this guy's fake, this is this is so cheesy. And I just, for me, motivation and inspiration could be that the sun came up today, that your heart's beating, that you hugged your mom, that you held the door for somebody. Like anybody that hates on that kind of concept, I'm like, we're not forcing you to, I worked at Yellow Book at one point selling Yellow Page ads. And at one point we would get together and everybody would say, they'd yell team. And we'd have to say, together, everyone achieves more. And then they'd yell, big hit. And we'd have to say, home run, big hit, home run. I'm not talking about that kind of motivation. If that's what you need, sure. But I'm just saying, hey, maybe there's things we can do to have a better tomorrow. So when people come down on me sometimes for, you don't have to, I'll tell my friends and stuff, you can mute me, please, feel free. Mute me if the motivation, you don't have to follow these pages. But we are going to try to put out just positive stuff every day as much as we can. Go on, Tom. I see you like big hit home run. Big hit home run. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I don't think the stuff that you share is cheesy, but that is cheesy. That is like cornball cheese, like I mean, silly, like like middle school. Like we're all gonna go on a field trip and do some like group exercise together, kind of stuff, right? Like that's cheesy. The big hit home run thing, like the call and repeats. I mean, come on. That's corny.
So when I sold Yellow Pages, and Kelsey, come on back up. We're going to get to Beth and you if you want to jump in here. But when I sold Yellow Pages, at one point, my office was 72 miles from my home, and we had to go there every morning and have meetings, and then we would go to our territory, and my territory was another half hour away. And they found such value in getting together to say big hit home run and all this, that I would get to my territory at like 11 o'clock, and I would be like, don't you think I should have been there 3 hours earlier, because this is sales and it's based on numbers? But they thought we needed to get together and chant and cheer and stuff like that. Okay, let's go. Go on. I have one more question. We're going to get to Beth. Go on, Tom. What
just one thing I wanted to say real quick. It was Mark Twain, that quote, never argue with an idiot. They'll drag you down to their level and beat you through experience. Right. Yeah. Mark Twain. Just
when I get
that real fast,
I get flagged the most on like my Motivation Champs pages on quotes attributed to the wrong person. So we might share, like, let's say it's a picture of Jim Carrey and it says that quote from Mark Twain, or it's Margaret Thatcher, and it's just, we share it, and then all of a sudden I'll get Facebook will say that quote is not attributed to that person. It's actually this person. I don't know. I'm just sharing something, sorry, I'm going to use JC. I'm just sharing something JC shared that I thought was motivational, so we get the hate. Hey, quick, before we go to Beth, I have a quick question here. Any of my TikTokers here, are you using personal accounts or commercial accounts? Anybody have an answer there? Personal, okay. Dr. Tachi, how come?
Because I don't really use TikTok enough to warrant me going the whole business account thing. I'm not as I shouldn't say I don't use it. I'm not as focused. So I just never did. I just kept it personal. Plus, I think that, for example, with music, if you're using, if you have a business account, you're not going to be able to use certain popular songs, etc. So that's another reason. But the biggest thing is I just am not as focused on it.
You're correct with that music thing. I switched mine about 2 years ago to commercial and business account. I don't know why I did it. I just thought, I should do this, and I'm not trying to monetize it in any way, but it does seem to limit me on some in some capacity. So I'm just wondering, and you can switch it back, but I've never switched it back. So anybody else have any thoughts on that? I need personal help here. I'm laying. Got it? No, nobody on my TikTok. All right.
I had to. Sorry. I had to go look, but I don't really spend a lot of time on TikTok other than, doing the scroll. But I don't really post a lot on TikTok. So I'm not like trying to gain a following there or like grow an audience. So I don't have any useful feedback, but my account's not a business account. And I think it's just because when you have to like go through a process to register as a business account, you have to like put in your EIN and like a bunch of stuff, if I remember correctly. And I think what it was when I clicked on the business thing and it started putting me through that process, I was like, I'm bored already, I'm out. And I just stopped doing it because I just didn't care. So that was it for me. Like, if that helps at all.
Okay, so here I'm just gonna. So I have two. We have a Bikes and Hikes account, and then I have a Motivation Champs account. The Bikes and Hikes is just personal, and then my Motivation Champs, I moved it over to business. I have a ton more followers on the business page, but I think the views are what would we call that? Cautioned, or I see them like on the bikes and hikes, the views are 10 times more with a third of the followers. So I'm trying to understand the metrics there, and that's why I think something's up, but I wondered if anybody had any thoughts. All right, we'll continue rather than my one-off thoughts on something. Hey, Phil Hill, I applied to Amazon influencers again. Phil said, just keep applying. They denied me again. I'm going to, Phil said, well, apply again. Okay. So I'm gonna keep applying. That was, and try, because I think there would be value in saying, hey, this is, this is cool. This is something I use. So I'm trying. Phil, Dr. Chachi, why the wow face? And Phil, a wow face too.
I wonder why they would deny you for the Amazon influencers program.
Yeah, Amazon influencers where you make the videos, and they're making you put in. You cannot do it, Phil. That's what we need, Phil. They're making you do it from personal, or not from a personal page, from a business page. I think because is that right, Phil? Phil, answer. You're up on stage now. Our Amazon influencer expert. What do you got?
Oh, yeah, there we go. Hey, so yeah, Dominic. Most of the people I know that get approved in the program, they I believe that their page needs to be like either public figure or a business page. Mine is listed as a public figure, and so that's one of the things. Dominic, tell you what we do. We reach around to me when you can get a chance. We'll connect and quick few minute phone call or something. Talk through how you have tried it and see if there's any small tip or something that I might recognize that will help you in your reapplies. You'll get in. It's
All right, yeah, keep trying. I think there's value. Basically, and sorry to I'm one off and like crazy here. I just asked me a question. It says connect any of these 4 accounts, and it's like TikTok, my Facebook business page, an Instagram page, or YouTube. I connect one, it says no. I connect another one, says no. So, all right, Phil, hold on, don't go away. We're going to ask you about how you deal with feedback. Beth,
Yep.
Feedback coming your way. Do you handle it, or does it make you cringe? What do? Do you hide under your pillow?
Oh, Dom, Tom, John, Brian, Dragon, Doctor, Phil, everybody else. I'm still just cracking up about the hat thing because I was looking at the stage and I'm like, oh shit, there's 5 of us with hats on. But yeah, no, feedback. Man, if you are a parent, you have some thick skin if you ever have to do Thanksgiving dinner with a baby and you have the cousin sitting at the table with you that's like 18 years old, hasn't had a kid, but going to tell you everything, every single thing you need to know about raising that child. And you sit there and you just shake your head and say, thank you for the input. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's usually my route of feedback is thank you. But you don't do this. You don't have a kid or you're not in real estate. Why are you going to tell me? But then I step back a tiny bit and I say, you know what? But they're around babies. They buy real estate. Let me hear what they have to say. I want it from the outside. I don't podcast, but I watch a lot of podcasts. And, maybe my feedback would be good or beneficial, that this is that didn't sound good to me. So I always think feedback is the real back. They are there to help. And whether it's good, it's not good, if it's coming from a bad place, whatever. But like, what was the movie? The Good Gentleman or whatever, the military movie where they're in court and they're like, you can't handle the truth. A lot of people can't handle the truth and they take feedback as so negative. But it's needed, right? And then they will sit and ponder it and go over it. I've done it many times, like, oh shit, you're right. I probably should shut down that account and not do that. I probably should move companies from here to there. But at the time, it didn't feel that great when they're telling me because I think things are running smooth and great. But I love feedback. That's my input. And keep wearing your hats, guys. You do have beautiful heads. You look fine. Just keep wearing your hats. Don't worry about people. That's my feedback for the day.
Okay, good Thanksgiving advice. Tom messaged me about Thanksgiving, and I want to be clear, Tom, since you are your wife is pregnant right now. What the phenomenon Beth is describing, and any parents here can, that my children especially like to be the baddest. Over the course of, now my son's 18 and my daughter's 15, they choose to be the baddest when the most people are around, when uncles and aunts are around. That's when they like to push the boundaries as a child and make you look like that you are not a good parent. Is that has anybody experienced that phenomenon? Beth gives 100%. JC, come on, anything? Brian Swift? I know Brian would just elbow. What is that true, Brian?
Oh, 100%. You know what? They never, do what you want on command, or be the way that you want. It's like your dog, my dog could do 1,000 things that I ask him to do, and then you get him out in public and, he does something different. That I think those are just natural stages that every kid goes through. It is what it is. Sometimes, you wonder, are they just testing you? Or is it, whatever it is? But I gotta believe every parent has dealt with that.
Okay, the phenomenon is answered. Tom, were you aware of this phenomenon before today?
Oh, I believe it. I mean, look,
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like I have no memory of being young, right? Like, I remember when I was a kid. Well, because your parents are distracted. There's 100 things going on. So, like, when there's a big event, like that's when you get to sort of get away with stuff because they can't be paying attention to you as closely as they would be in other circumstances, right? So, like, that's when you get away with stuff. And for sure, you put a bunch of kids together, a bunch of cousins together at a holiday or something like that, they're going to get into some trouble, right? Like, it's sort of the way it is. But yeah, no. So I just I totally get that, and I get that, like, everybody likes to give feedback and thoughts. Becky and I've been getting a ton of advice from people, and the advice we take on board. For the most part, but when we get those, like, oh, you don't know how it's going to be, or you've never been so tired, or like any of that kind of stuff, we both just sort of roll our eyes because we're like, okay, like, we get it, like, we haven't done this before, so we're idiots and whatever, like, but we've gotten a bunch of good advice from friends and family. One of the pieces of advice that I really like was a friend of mine who said to me, a lot, just remember, it's going to be tough at times. Just remember that a lot of people have done more with less. So you'll be fine. Like, even, there are going to be times when, like, it's very challenging. Just remember that a lot of people have done more with less, and you're going to be fine. And I thought that was one of the best pieces of advice I've gotten. But I'm pretty well over the you're going to be real tired stuff, and you don't know how hard it is to raise a kid stuff. I get it. I don't. I understand that. Like, haven't done it before. How could I possibly understand it? I don't think I know. But I'm ready for it. Like, it's happening. So we'll deal with it as it comes. But, like, I'm tired of hearing about people telling me how tired I'm going to be. I get it.
All right, fair, Tom. I would just say Beth, she's this is her, I'm looking at her little profile picture. It is kids beating her with those rubber those pool things. Yes, this kind of thing will happen. I left a lot of parties there are a lot of parties that I put my son or my daughter over my shoulder and said, we're out of here, when they were screaming and People would be like, don't leave. Nope, I am not going to handle this. I am not going to accept this. They are out of here. Left vacations, drove home. Yeah, don't mess with me on vacation. We turned around. We left early. Sometimes I would leave like my shoes and my pants and things like that still at the hotels or wherever, because I would leave. I would pack so quickly just because I was like, I'm out of here. Sometimes I'd go down to the desk and I'd say, can I still get tomorrow's, if I don't stay today, can I still get money back? And they'd be like, yep, I'm out of here. So go on, Tom. What do you want to add there?
I was just going to ask, how many times have you broken out the classic, these two classics, right? I'll turn this car around, right? And don't make me stop this car.
Never. Don't do that, Tom. Don't ever do that, because you know what? That's what they want to do. They want to go back home. They want to no, go do what you want to do. Don't ever say that. Keep
That's a
going.
good point. They want to go back home. All right, here. Now I'm going somewhere else here. Well, hold on here. So we were talking about the hats. JC is still here? I got to read these comments. So JC left. JC said he wears a hat in truth because he has messy hair and his wife likes him in a hat. There you go. I said I wear hats to train my hair. Yep, it goes backwards easier if I wear hats more often. Hide messy hair. Yep, some days I just don't feel like combing my hair. And hide in general. I like to wear, I don't have the flat bill like Tom. I wear my bills more like turned down over my face. And that's why I wear hats. So, all right, Peter. Peter's got a hat on? We're going to Peter. So, Peter, 2 questions. 1, why do you wear a hat? 2nd, what do you do with feedback? Do you care about it? Are you like, well, maybe I should do that? How do you handle it? Go on, Peter. Peter's driving. Peter could be driving too. So
yeah, I'm at work right now, so I'm gonna be quick. I do take the feedback and try to put it, use it to my advantage. And why do I wear a hat? Is that what you asked me?
That's right, man. You're wearing a hat in your picture. I'm asking you why you wear a hat. Go on.
Because I'm going gray.
Me too.
Literally, that's the reason why. That's the reason why.
All right, good answers, man. Keep hanging out. Were those good answers, Tom?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, hey, whatever floats your boat, you can wear a hat for whatever reason you want, right? I mean, like if JC wants to wear a hat to hide his messy hair, or because his wife, likes the way he looks in a hat, that I think those are fine reasons. If you want to wear a hat to train your hair, I don't really understand what that means, but okay. Like I said, I've been bald for so long, I don't even remember what it's like to have hair. But sure, whatever floats your boat. And if you want to use it to hide, cool. Like, with like the really curved brim, that works too, right? Like whatever, I think any reason is fine, right? Like if you like it, if you're comfortable with it, then, do it, like go for it. Right. I don't see a problem, for sure. So if Peter wants to wear a hat because he's going gray and he feels better, then yeah, wear a hat, man. It's all good. It's all good. John, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, the hat thing. 2 things. I almost never wear a hat because my head is really, really big. And the biggest lie is one size fits all, especially with baseball caps, because they don't. They never sit right, and it always looks awkward. And I look like a goofball. So I don't wear hats. But there are some people I listen to all the time, and I listen to my wife no matter what she says. I try to take in consideration what she says. Different type of feedback. My daughters, my mother. But people that really matter, when it's constructive criticism, I listen. When it's social media, people being haters and trolls, I don't pay attention at all. And I say it again, when it comes to reviews on a podcast, I don't pay any attention to that. As a matter of fact, I don't even solicit them, because to me, it's a total waste of time. Put out the show that you think works and look at your metrics and go out. Then compare
Hey,
it to
John,
whether you wear a hat or not.
can I pause you on that? That was in there. So people asking for reviews and stuff like that. You're saying, F it, I don't do that. Yeah.
I don't do it at all. I ask people, if you like the show, tell a friend or 2 or 3. And I said in a joking way, because referrals matter more. reviews, they don't do anything to increase your downloads. They do nothing. As a matter of fact, they can do more harm than good. And let's just say the platforms that you can leave reviews on, there's quite a few that you can't. So why would you do that? I don't put that out there. As a matter of fact, I'm going to double down, triple down my efforts in getting referrals and ask people to tell their friends and their family about my show.
Gotcha, John. And back to what you said about feedback earlier when you first were talking today, you basically, I felt, were saying if it is a client or a potential client or potential syndicator or something like that, you'll listen to them on their thoughts, but otherwise you aren't.
People that matter, and Dr. Totsky made a great point. People that depends on where they're coming from. I always have to measure myself. So my dad used to say this when he was still alive. He goes, what do you call a one-man boxing match? And I'd sit there and fret over that for hours. And he said, there is no such thing. It takes two people to volunteer to get into the argument. Then he'd follow with, who's a bigger idiot? The one who agrees to get an argument with an idiot, or the one who's an idiot and they don't know it? So I always have a choice to make. Do I get involved or not? And the vast majority of the time is I do not.
You got a heart from Beth on that. Beth, you agree with what John's got to say there?
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay. All right. Here's what we got to do here. We're going show and tell. And then because we're all friends in this room and we haven't done this for a while, I just want to, I want to know in this room what you want people to check out of yours. If you want to share a link in the comments or something like that, go for it. But so that we know, like, hey, John, watch my show. Here's what it's about. Brian, check out this book or something you're working on that you want to people to check out. Okay, so now show and tell. We do this every week. Not the smartest guys in the room. That's for our live streamers. So you better get over to the live stream or check out our YouTube page. This is a present that somebody gave me that worked at a landfill. And hypothetically speaking, things come into a landfill sometimes, and it could be vacuum from stores or stuff that's returned. This was something they found in a box, and they didn't want it. And they said, hey, Dom, would you want it? And I'm like, yeah, that's the coolest thing ever. So here it is. This is my Wilt Chamberlain basketball card. Who wouldn't want a Wilt Chamberlain basketball card? The person that gave it to me, he said, here you go, have at it. So Wilt Chamberlain right behind me. Come on. Wilt's 30,000 points, 7-1. Come on. I had one of my authors had a friend who was Wilt Chamberlain's roommate in college. How weird is that? So, okay, Wilt Chamberlain card that came from a landfill. What do you think, Tom?
I like it. I think that's a good one. That's an interesting. If you had just pulled out the Wilt Chamberlain card, I would have been like, meh, because it's not my thing. I'm not a big sports fan or collector of sports memorabilia or anything like that. You definitely, your fandom for sports, broadly speaking, far outpaces mine. But yeah, I don't have any sports collectibles or anything. So if you had just pulled that out without the story about how you came to have it and where it came from, I would have been like, meh, cool. I mean, I know who Wilt Chamberlain was. I know his nickname. I know his nickname. I know like that he was, an incredibly accomplished, basketball player. And I think a Hall of Fame in the NBA Hall of Fame, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, other than that, I think the story is really kind of what makes it, though, that it came to you through such unusual means. Like, to me, that's what makes that card so interesting and worth holding on to. So I appreciate it. As usual, I appreciate the story. Big surprise there, right? That I'm all about the story.
Thank you, Tom. The story plays. The story plays, right?
Absolutely.
It matters.
Absolutely. The story makes all the difference, I think.
Always. Okay, let's do this. Not John, Jay, thank you. You shared a link. So we're starting with John. We're going around the room. John, the Brian, the Dr. Tachi, the Beth, Phil, Tom, Peter, Marcella, me. Something you're proud of, you're working on. Just tell us about it. Tell us how we can find it. And then throw it in the comments. John Jay, you've done this before. So please show us how this should be done.
Well, the one thing I would say is please follow me on Facebook. I pinned the link in the chat, the Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show and Podcast, because if you follow there, you create a revenue stream. You may not listen to my show, but you might. And if you follow me there, there's about, on average, 14 chances that I will have a chance to connect with you every day. So that's the one thing that I would say. You want to listen to my show? That's great. You want to tell a friend? That's great. But please follow me on Facebook more than anything else. To me, that's the most important thing because it means revenue and growth. Thank you.
John Jay, well done. Simple. Tom, what'd you think about that? Was that well done?
Nailed it. I think you nailed it.
So, Brian P. Swift, you want to follow John Jay's lead? And seriously, guys, I'm saying put something in the comments here, and we'll give it a follow. I'm gonna put TikTok in the comments. So go on, Brian Swift. What do you got?
What do I have? I would like everybody to check out our 501c3 nonprofit SOAR, which that's the acronym. It's called Swift Outdoor Accessible Recreation. Don, maybe you could throw that in the comments for me, the link. And why? Well, if you remember the winter of 1979, like I do, I was 17. I was out playing football at the park with friends, and I broke my neck and became a C6 quadriplegic. That being said, since 1979, I've been so blessed to be able to do so much with my life and thrive and live a crazy, fun, exciting, fulfilling life, which I'm still doing. And because of that, 8 years ago, we started a nonprofit to help people with disabilities get back outdoors. The reason being, I believe a lot of healing happens outdoors. And one of the things people with disabilities give up, and one of the things that really haunt them is their lack of ability to do the things they used to love. So if I could get people back outdoors because they used to love riding bikes or walking down the paths, we'll get them a accessible trike or a therapeutic hand cycle, whatever it is. If they like to fish, if they were into photography, we'll get them a setup that attaches to their wheelchair so that they can, mount a camera on it and still do the things they love to do outside. So if you could check that out, that would be awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great one. Great one, Brian. Really appreciate that. Appreciate the message there. Dominic is pulling up that link. He's throwing it in the chat. And then just so you guys know too, I'm going to share these out through Restream. So they're going to go on some of the channels where we're streaming also. They'll be on the Talex Media, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube pages. And then I'm sure Dom will add some to his pages too if he gets a chance. But I'll go ahead and share those out as we're going here live. So anybody on any of those platforms can check out your stuff. Awesome. Next up, Dr. Tachi. That's the next. You're the next on my list. I got vertical. Dom is left, right, up, down. I'm just vertical over here on the desktop version of Club Deck. So going down top to bottom, we got Dr. Tachi next. Dr. Tachi, what's something you want folks to check out? Guess Dr. Tachi has stepped away for a minute. So let's go to Beth next. Then Beth, you're up. What do you got going on that you want folks to check out?
Well, yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Beth Hessian Realtor page. Go in there, like John said, like it, look at it. I'm not that active, but I am participating more and more. But I did, John, just for you, change my PTR to my husband's badge from the inauguration of Bush and Cheney, the 65th president of the United States, when he was doing detail there, just to give you a little police stuff going on.
Thank you, Beth. Okay, so then we go, Dr. Tachi. When you hear us flash, and we're gonna make sure you get a turn here. So Phil Hill, man, Phil, what are we going to something you're proud of that you'd like us to check out, what's that, my friend?
Hey, so I put it in the chat at philhill.live. I'm just excited that in the last month and a half or so, I've had a chance to be on the greatest law enforcement talk show and podcast in the world with the John J. Wiley Experience. That was fun. I was a guest there, and I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity. And I really think it's making a difference in so many ways. I'm just seeing clicks in, even though it wasn't a sales thing. Thank you, John. We've talked about a lot of things. Took me in a direction I didn't even realize, and yet I'll be honest, I saw it pop in people clicking on my Amazon pages. Okay. But first of all, I was just happy to share my story. John helped me find a new story. So with that being said, I still have a podcast coming out soon on security cameras, crime, and how to, basically a DIY experience and how to buy security cameras. But I also experienced with John. Now, I really feel like if I did a second podcast, which I think I will, it's going to be one on caregiving men, or men who are caregivers. And that one is going to strike a little different for me. And I feel like I'm just called to do it. So there's a spot in my link tree for the show that I was on with John. And there's also a spot there for my podcast. And if you stay on that link tree, you'll click it and eventually you'll see the podcast. I'll pop up there in my link tree, whichever one or two I might have. I appreciate all of you guys. Oh, and Tom, for a grandfather who watched 4 hours of Bluey yesterday while laying on the floor in the tent that we made of blankets just to keep the kids busy while my daughter got her work done at home. Check it out. It might give you a few thoughts, but keep in mind that's some Australian stuff going on up there. They do things a little different on the parenting side, but you'll get a kick out of it.
Phil, thank you. And this Bluey keeps coming up. I've never watched Bluey. Has anybody here watched Bluey? I think we might have.
No, but I know what it is. It's my neighbor has a 2-year-old and carries this Bluey toy all around. So it's a kid show that is really catching on now, and if you remember as a parent, our kids went through those stages where they watched one show ad nauseum, and you could recite it by then. So that's what Bluey's going to kind of becoming, that one show that kids just really like. So that's what that is.
My partner I do bikes and hikes with says Bluey is incredibly written, and says that the kids are watching it for one thing, and he'll be almost in tears over he might be cheesy like me, over the storyline of what's going on there. So I'm hearing impressive things. Go on, Phil.
Hey, Dom. In a nutshell, it's a family of mom, dad, and a couple of dog puppies and other dogs in the community, but they're like people dogs, and they talk and act like regular people, Australian style. I thought about Bluey when Beth put up this person getting beaten with the wet noodle things, because that happens a lot in the Bluey cartoons. So anyhow, enough of that.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Phil Hill. Thank you, each of you, for being here. We appreciate it. We don't say that enough, but we do. Okay, I'm going to read. Tom, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to read Peter's because he says he's driving. I'm not going to be able to hear him, so I'm going to read it for us. Then we'll go to you. You give us something you want the people to check out. I'll give one, and then you can give us a wrap up. How's that sound? Okay, he gives me a thumbs up. Now let me read Peter's. Okay. Ta-da, you hear him. Ta-da. Peter Mata. I'm working on getting my podcast out called Unfiltered. Hopefully we'll be out by end of March. He's in a work truck right now. It's loud and you won't be able to hear him. Peter just started on Clubhouse not long ago. I'm telling you that. So give this guy a follow. I met Peter in person. Might have had a frosty beverage sitting right beside him. He was a good dude. So check him out. Tom, you have what is something you want us to check out?
You wrapped that up so quickly. I was taking a bite of a graham cracker and I had something in my mouth. I was like, oh, I got to swallow this fast.
Sorry, my signals aren't great.
Didn't expect you to be so fast. So yeah, so I got something for you. So and I've said this tons of times in here before. I'm on a mission to humanize the world of business, right? And if you want to learn more about how I'm trying to do that, and the work that I'm doing to that end, I think my book Legendeering is a great place to do that. I'm very proud of it. I'm excited for it, to be out in the world and for people to read it and start putting it into practice. And if you want to learn more about Legendeering, all you have to do is go to legendeering.io. Very straightforward. The link is in the chat. I also posted the link to everybody's stuff, including Dom's TikTok, and everybody who shared a link in the chat also went out on the links that are Restream's able to repost to. So yeah, check it out. Go to legendeering.io, learn a little bit more about Legendeering. And that's what I got for you.
Thank you, Tom. Good stuff as always. Julie, Kathy, if you want to share something in the comments or come on up, go ahead. Hey, John, Dr. Tachi, Beth, Phil, I think I might be like on these platforms. I'll talk about platforms, but do you go out and say, like, on Facebook, check out my TikTok? Do you go out on LinkedIn and say, check out my YouTube? Is that something we should be doing? Should we be doing it more? Or is that a complete like bad thing? Go on, John.
I post periodically about follow me on Apple, because that'll affect the Apple charts. I post periodically about follow on Newsbreak, because that does create a revenue stream for me. But I never start with checkout. I never ask them to do something. I always start with what's in it for them. I try to. So if you look at my page, 90% of my posts are all engagement driven. And even the post where it's check out an episode of my show, it's never worded that way. I start off with the first word. I try to literally get their attention with what's in that episode for them, and make it not about me. So in short, I almost never post, hey, do me a favor, do this, or check me out, or hey, I, me, mine. I try to eliminate that from language at all. Totally.
Okay, got it, John, and good stuff. So always, and it's borderline cliche, but always leading with value. So over here, you will see this story is about XYZ that that you might be interested in or something like that. So got it. I'll give you mine. I put over there TikTok. I put Motivation Champs TikTok. The reason for that is I probably don't share enough what's going on over there. I try to share same thing, inspirational content as much as I can. Inspiration, motivation, quick. I believe that it's an emerging platform. I believe in Jack Welch's first to market, meaning I do inspiration with a slice of humor. I try to share inspiration with a slice of humor. Over on TikTok, you'll see authors opening books. You'll see me out riding bikes, just trying to share a lighter, inspirational content, because I believe there's a lot of people on that platform and going to that platform that may never have been exposed to that kind of content. That, hey, it's going to be all right. Hey, better days are ahead. Hey, keep your head up. And so that's the kind of content that I try to put out over there. So not the smartest guys in the room. Tom, you got back right at the right time. Hold on. Let me look. I'm going to look over in the comments before we go to you for a wrap up. See if Julie, Kathy, or Mary wrote anything over there. Okay. Tom says he's on a mission to humanize the world of business. And if you want to learn how, I'm working on Tom, I'm on a mission to humanize the world of business. And if you want to learn how I'm working on it, go to www.legendeering to learn more. Okay, that's Tom's. Tom, we've talked about a lot today. It's that time of day. Are you ready to wrap us up? Well, unless you think it's a bad segue. Go on.
No. I am. I just want to clarify. It's legendeering.io, not just Legendeering. It's legendeering you forgot the dot. And if somebody just types Legendeering into a search bar, it's just going to give into their web browser. It's just going to take them to a search. So it's .io, legendeering.io.
Got it. Thank you, Tom.
So check that out. Yeah, Dom, maybe that's why sometimes you have trouble loading websites. You got to put the dot com.io. You got to put that
Hey,
in.
I'm getting a new hard drive Thursday night. This thing, I'm gonna go fast as can be. I'm not gonna get kicked off, and I got a new storage tower over here. I will be big time soon.
Now we just got to work on your camera.
What's wrong with my camera?
You're super fuzzy, bro.
I'm fuzzy today. I still look at myself.
You're all kinds of fuzzy on my end.
Come on.
What camera do you recommend, Tom?
Well, that's a loaded question, Phil, because it depends on a whole bunch of things, right? I'm going to use my favorite answer when someone says someone asks me a question about what I recommend. It depends, right? And that's, I heard somebody say one time, which maybe I like just because it makes me feel good because I do this often. But somebody said, an expert is an expert when that's their answer to a question like that, right? Because there are thousands of camera options available. So it really depends on what your sort of end goals are, what your budget is, what you're using the camera for, the kind of computer you have, how it's going to interface with the computer, what you're using for audio. So there's a million ways to answer that question, and there's no way I could just answer it right off the bat.
All right. How about for Dom's setup, and you probably know what his setup is, and for what Dom needs and how his capabilities that he can work it. Which one would you recommend now?
Yeah, I would recommend Dom gets a plug and play camera, like a straightforward USB. I would suggest a high end web camera for Dom would probably be the way to go, because Dom is and he's not going to be surprised by this. He knows he's not the most technically savvy person, and so a plug and play solution is the way to go. And then having somebody walk him through the setup process too. He looks better now. I don't know if he changed some settings.
I didn't change anything. I changed nothing. I almost want to show you I almost want to switch cameras and hold this camera up so you guys can look at it. But I know as soon as I do that, it's never going to come back on.
You're probably not. Yeah, we're probably going to lose your video, and it's going to turn into a whole thing because who knows if you know how to switch cameras.
Oh, all right. Forget you. You better wrap up quick.
All right. So, but hey, I'm like you, Dom. Remember what Brian said earlier? If it's coming from me, it's coming from a place of love. So there you go.
And truthful and same, like Brian, you saying that to me, like obviously when somebody tells me, yeah, try to figure it out, try to make it better with what I have. Okay. Like when I'm willing to spend $100 more on, this or that, or 200. Okay. Yeah. As of today, I used to use just a computer camera, and I can look back at our smartest guys in the room from 2 years ago and see that it was really fuzzy looking, and I thought it was good at the time. I don't know how I sit there looking at that fuzzy thing it was like really fuzzy. So who knows? All right, go on, Tom.
Well, it just got better. So I don't know what you did, but it just got better. You don't know what you did either. So it's all good. It's all good. It's starting to get a little fuzzier again. So I don't know if it's just it could just be a buffering issue. I don't know. Well, there's no telling. Anyway, so I got a little bit of a wrap up. This is actually inspired by something that Dr. Tachi shared recently, which was an article talking about how Tyler Perry has suspended an $800 million expansion to his studios down in Georgia and the explanation is, and what he said was, he's done so because of the demonstration that OpenAI's text-to-video model Sora put out recently. So I found that article very interesting for a couple of reasons. One is that I was really shocked that someone would suspend an $800 million investment in a studio because of an OpenAI model. So I went and looked at it. I looked at the video that OpenAI released that Sora put together, right? And it's impressive for what it is, but it's not even close to being, being ready to be rolled out. I mean, the videos are obviously computer generated. They are the kind of thing that if I hired an animator and they sent me, or an effects artist, and they sent me videos that looked like this, I would send them back and have them redo it. They're obviously not real. They're obviously fake, right? They're obviously computer generated imagery. And so in looking at it, I was really surprised. Like, why would Tyler Perry suspend this expansion? And it's not because of what it looks like now. It's because of what it's going to be capable of in the future. Right. And I think he saw that long term, it probably depends on a lot of things, like what the return on investment and how long it was going to be before that $800 million investment paid off, right? Or paid for itself, or started turning a profit for him and his business. That he looked at it and said, well, that timeline doesn't match up with when I think Sora and these OpenAI video models are going to be, or these other, AI video models are going to be usable, right? That the timeline doesn't match up. They're going to beat me to when I can actually turn a profit, and they're going to make it so this doesn't end up being profitable. So I don't think it was a short-term reaction. I actually think it was a long-term reaction. And I'm going to give Tyler Perry that benefit of the doubt, because he's a pretty astute businessman. And he has been as successful as he has been because he's been good at sort of looking at what's available, what's going to be available, where trends are moving, and been able to adapt to those trends. So anyway, all of that is to say, I think, at the end of the day, Tyler Perry didn't say it's not going to put us out of business. It's not going to destroy the film industry. It's not going to be the end of my company or anything like that. It just means that he's going to change his tact going forward. And I think there's a valuable lesson in that for all of us, right? Whether you're somebody who is still trying to avoid any interaction with OpenAI or ChatGPT or any of the other AI models available. If you're trying to avoid them, I would say you do so at your own peril. They're here. They're not going anywhere. But they're tools. And as such, we should all learn how to use them. And that's something that I've been playing with a little bit. I've found a couple of different models for how to create prompts that generate better results. And I think a lot of times when people are upset with the results they get from AI, whether it's a text generator or image generator, it's because they're not putting in a good prompt. And the way I saw someone describe it to me was, it's a tool. And so when the tool doesn't perform well, whose fault is it? The tool's fault or the user's fault, right? If you're trying to hammer a nail into a piece of wood and you bend the nail over and it doesn't go in straight, are you mad at the hammer, or is it your fault for not using the hammer properly? Right? So same, right? AI, the OpenAI models that we have available to us, ChatGPT, Sora when it becomes available, all of these things, these are tools. They're hammers, right? And so you have to learn how to use them properly in order to get good results with them. So I think I would encourage everyone, it's something I'm doing actively. I would encourage everyone here to start practicing now. Start learning how to use these AI models, these open source models. Start learning how to apply them to your brand and business. Learn how to use these tools to your benefit, because they are not going anywhere. And the only difference between the people who are going to the people that AI is going to put out of business or not are the people who refuse to use it versus the people who embrace it, right, for what it is. So, I think it's just like any other technological innovation. It's a little scary at first, but if you approach it for what it is and give it the opportunity, it can be incredibly beneficial to you. In the same way so many technological innovations have been throughout history. The one that springs to mind right off the top of my head is, think back. I'm guarantee you that at the turn of the 20th century, the early 20th century, there were a lot of people who thought there was no way that this crazy fragile automobile that always was breaking down everywhere was ever going to replace horses as a way to move things around, right? And move people around. And boy, were they wrong, because how many people do you know ride horses everywhere they go, right? Not very many. So I think the lesson there is it's a tool, embrace it as a tool, use it to your advantage, learn how to use it well. The people who will succeed the most in a world where AI plays a role in the work that we do, especially in creative work, are the people that are best at wielding the tools. So learn how to use the tools, wield the tools available to you, and have fun with it, because learning is fun, right? Don't forget that learning is and can be fun. Don't be afraid, be excited. So that's what I got for you guys today. Wanted to leave that on a positive note, right? Embrace it, have fun with it. Learning can be fun. I love learning. I've been actually having a lot of fun over the last couple of days playing around with ChatGPT and some AI stuff and learning how to use them better. So I would encourage everyone else here to do the same. Thanks everybody for being here with us today. And not the smartest guys in the room. I am Tom for Dom. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. We'll be here next Wednesday, 9:30 a.m. as per usual. We will see you guys then. And don't forget to check the junkyard for Wilt Chamberlain cards. You never know what you might find in there. All right, guys. Until then, we'll see you next Wednesday. Love you. Thanks.